Hello, welcome to 123 Film Competition. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this online event is streaming from, the Boonwurrung and the Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We pay respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, ancestors, and those who are amongst us. Hi. Oops, tech problem. Hi, my name is Jennifer Tran. I am one of the co-hosts and coordinators of the 123 Film Competition. My co-host here is John Kassab. Just a bit of housekeeping. We'll be running this event for 1 hour and 15 minutes. This session is recorded and is going live on our Facebook, Cinespace Facebook event. John will be leading the questions with our judges, and also talk about Cinespace and the 123 Film Competition. I'll be coordinating the back end with the tech. If you have any questions or comments, I'll look through them on the Facebook comments. So at the moment, I'll pass it on to John Kassab.
Thanks, John. Aha, success. Hey, everybody. I wanted to spruik this little competition we've been working on, the 123 Film Competition. Very excited to have an esteemed collection of judges with us today, all from this wonderful area. We've put together this competition to encourage productivity during this difficult time of lockdowns. We've just been dealt another lockdown in our area, and I think half of the judges today are basically facing the same situation. And, you know, with all the talk in the industry about productivity being shut down and, you know, production not going smoothly, and all of us sort of being separated from each other, I've seen a lot of people be super industrious during this time in developing and learning. And I've brought this group of people together to talk to you today because they haven't stopped, even though I think everything else around them in some way has. So I'd like to first introduce our first judge, Natalie Erika James. Natalie is a multi-award winning Japanese Australian writer, director and producer. Her debut feature film, The Relic, was a huge smash at Sundance and South by Southwest this year and will be released on Stan on July 10th, which we're all super excited about. Hey, Nat.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Next is Karl Fernando. Karl is an emerging Indigenous screenwriter and podcaster. He's been putting out content on YouTube channel Mental Piracy Productions for a while now, and is the host of a weekly film comedy review podcast called Defacast. He's currently developing a scripted podcast called The Pulp Podcast In. Hello, Karl.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, man. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, sorry, we had some issues there.
Oh, it's all right. I think we're all kind of new in this space. Next up, we've got Eldin Deng, who is a well-known Sudanese filmmaker, theatre maker, and rapper. He's been active leading community development programs, and under the name Izu, he's been involved in dozens of theatre projects with the VCA, the Multicultural Arts Victoria, Western Edge Youth Arts, and Playback West Theatre Group, and is currently developing projects. Do we have Ez coming through?
Yes.
Hey Ez. Thanks for joining us, Ez. Has he got his sound on? All right. And we have Nikki Tran as well, who is a Chinese Viet writer producer. Her latest production is the web series Girl Interpreted, which is out on YouTube. She's also the creator of Fresh, which is also out on YouTube. both stories of migrant and BIPOC experiences in Australia. Nikki is a member of SCAC's West Riders and is currently undertaking a screen development internship at Film Victoria, the ABC and Matchbox Pictures. Welcome, Nikki Tran.
Thank you. Hello.
And lastly, we have Sammy Obama, who's running a little bit late, so maybe I'll hold out introductions for him when he gets here. I just wanted to lead the conversation, asking each of you how you've been and how you're finding this strange COVID time that we're all in for filmmaking. Can we start with Natalie?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think you already mentioned it, but I have a film coming out this year. We had our premiere at the start of the year. And the plan for the year was just to basically go follow the film around to a few festivals and do quite a bit of traveling. And yeah, we were supposed to play at South by Southwest, but then of course that got cancelled. So yeah, it became pretty clear that we were gonna, be spending time at home. So my, months in isolation have really just been focused on writing. So luckily we already had a development round kind of come through. So we kind of immediately launched into tackling that. Having said that, I had a number of weeks where I was very unproductive and was just glued to the news and was baking a lot. And, I think we all went through that kind of transition period. And then since then, I have been really focusing on writing. It's, writing I feel like is the easiest thing not to do. So it's taken a lot of discipline and I guess cultivating a lot of habits to make sure that it happens every day. So one of the great things has been joining a writing group. That's been amazing. And I can talk about that more if you like. But so that sums me up pretty much.
So tell us about the writers group. How was it organized and how did you get involved?
Yeah, so another Melbourne writer, Catherine McMullen, she just came up with this idea. I think there's quite a few of them around, but our one is essentially you sit on Zoom, much like this, and everyone's on mute and you write for 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And then you have like 15-minute breaks where you can chat, you can keep writing if you're on a roll. You get up, go get a snack, whatever it is. And we usually do it from 12 to 4. So it's only like a 4-hour block. So the mornings are more for meetings and emails, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's amazing how much the social contract can keep you on track. And at the height of it, we were doing it kind of every day. And now that restrictions have loosened, probably at least once a week, maybe a few times a week. But yeah, I would highly recommend for anyone who's struggling to write by themselves.
So you don't find that you guys distract each other at all? Like, are your faces up on the screens, or do you turn off your cameras, or how does that work?
No, your cameras are up there. I mean, it's almost better because you can't just, go on your phone.
You're
that's
accountable.
The social contract, right? That you have to look like, or I guess you could be texting down here, but you have to at least appear to be writing. And I feel like, inevitably you get in conversations, but because there's more than 2 of you, it's very easy to kind of go, okay, let's write. And so, it generally works out.
Ah, cool. And Karl, how have you found this whole experience?
I think I'm in the minority, and I've actually been thriving at it, to tell you the truth. Like what Natalie said, it was a bit of a struggle at the start. I was glued to the news as well, and my partner's got asthma, so she went into isolation pretty quickly. So it was pretty scary there for a while. But as soon as we sort of realised that it's not going to go away too quickly, we sort of found a rhythm. I've actually gotten a lot done. Like I've got I'm one of those writers that I'll have anywhere from 75 to 100 stories started, but none of them finished. They always start out as great ideas, and then life gets in the way, or they just get to a certain point where I don't want to write anymore. and I've revisited a few of those and really fleshed them out. And I think, as you mentioned before, like developed a scripted podcast in isolation that I'm really looking forward to getting off the ground, and a series that I think will be really really funny web series developed with my partner, just starting out. So yeah, it's actually been really good to me. So I've had a lot of time to self-reflect. It's fantastic. And I joined a writers group as well with a few other really talented writers. That's been really good social aspect. So once a fortnight we'll just catch up. It's not like Natalie's where we will have writing blocks. It's literally just like a catch up between seven to eight of us. We're just talking about our work and we discuss ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been really good. The past month has been really good, I should say. Yeah.
So this whole new super lockdown that we've been hit with in our area, that'll just be taken in your stride then, huh, Karl?
Pretty much, man. Pretty much. So I actually just before we went into lockdown, before there was any news of it, I put in for a few weeks leave from work. So I work in retail, so I still, I was still sort of getting out of the house anyway. But now I'm stuck at home like everyone else and living in my pajamas. So yeah, loving it.
Nice. Ez.
Hi.
Hey man. Just wondering, what's been your experience with this, and have you been keeping yourself busy?
Well, the first 2 weeks were much I lost motivation, and I didn't know what to do, and I was changing careers and not being creative or not right or anything like that. And I kind of like find it very, very hard, just like everybody else, just kind of stuck in the news, and everywhere you look, through Facebook or Instagram, it's just like chaos. And then I thought to do the for for people who just like might be stuck at home, but they've got ideas to kind of like share with the world. So I did tutorial about how to shoot a video on your phone and also how to edit simply. So that it got a lot of attention from the people out there, and people who are literally kind of like doing like their own little video, and they send me a Zoom link, and they're like, how do I edit and how do I shoot? And so I started to get engaged with the people out there, and it was really, really awesome. And I, wanted to get the news out there to my community in their own dialect. So I reached out to community elders to do community announcement regarding COVID, and also at school, and the new laws and the regulations. So then I started to just kind of like get busy and busy and get busy, and before I know it, I found myself actually leaving the house, even though I know I should be out in danger. And but yeah, it started like very unmotivated, and then to me having a lot of motivation, and then it just kind of hit me like last week that I think I should just kind of stop and reflect. Is this the journey that I really want to take, or should I just kind of like do the stories that I really care about and put a lot of thoughts into it, which is I've done that, and started to like focus more into cinematography and story, and understand the African how they film, and I wanted to kind of bring it into Australian culture. So just been focusing on that since last week when I literally hit. I was fit, and this week I'm up again with the new vision, new voice, new story.
Cool, man. Thank you. And I think I just got word that Sammy Obama has joined us. See coming in. Cool. So a quick intro on Sami. Sami is an Eritrean dancer, model, actor, filmmaker, writer who's been making waves on social media, amassing a massive following on YouTube and Instagram. And he's also been very active in community development projects, which is where we met a little while ago. Hello, Sami.
Hello.
Hey, man.
This is African timing on another level. I was driving. I was actually interviewing someone for a minute. So thank you for having me, and I do apologize for being late.
You're all good, man. I'm glad you can make it. We're all just talking about how we've been sort of coping with the COVID restrictions and how we've been keeping ourselves busy. I was wondering if you could chime in on that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was literally just like, I gotta thank the author of this book, The Artist's Way. I gotta give credit to that. It's the greatest book of all time. So it's been keeping me active. Just keeping me productive, writing every single day, even when I'm not feeling it. But also, while the restrictions have come down, it's allowed me to have time with myself and to kind of just, dive deep within myself and ask myself questions that I normally wouldn't when I'm out and about in the real world. And it's also like, it's allowed me to fight my demons, as a lot of people have been doing, in isolation, being alone, being by yourself. And also recently, not long ago, we've lost somebody as well. It wasn't suicide or anything, but I do know that he was going through some things, and he was going through some, depression, loneliness and stuff like that. So I've decided to also, to prevent that from happening to other men, I decided to develop this show called Men Don't Cry, which focuses more on men's mental health, because I've noticed around my community, in the Black community in particular, that it's very hard for us to be open and vulnerable and share things with one another. I think it is a man issue, but particularly in my community, there's like a lot of generational trauma, and also just a lot of baggages that we carry and a lot of things that we internalize. So I've held a panel of African men that I respect and that I've had deep conversations with, and decided to kind of, just have that conversation, and also just, being open and vulnerable amongst one another to help spread awareness that that what's happening to you isn't necessarily only happening to you, but it happens to everybody else. And hopefully, I could just, be the conversation starter to something bigger than myself.
Cool, man. Thank you. And lastly, Nikki, if you could chime in on what's been keeping you busy, and how you've managed during this obscure time.
Yeah, well, when we first went into lockdown, I was doing an internship, and I'm still doing an internship, so I guess I'm one of the lucky people who still has employment through this crazy time. But it is a bit weird being an intern from home, because part of internships are being in the space with people, mentoring you and learning from them, being able to interact with them. So yeah, that was really tough in the first few weeks, like everyone here, trying to figure out what's going on. There was a lot of anxiety, and people were trying to figure out how to actually work from home and communicate effectively within a team. And I was really unproductive. But then after a while, that whole anxiety kicked into another phase where it's like, oh my God, I have to make the most of my time. And I started like cleaning the house. I started like cooking, learning how to cook dishes. Just did a whole bunch of stuff that I haven't had the chance to do for years. Like I had a couple of pairs of pants and clothes that I hadn't fixed up for a long time. I got my sewing machine out and had to relearn how to thread it and fix my clothes. But yeah, I found that during this time, the way to keep myself productive was really just to load my plate up with stuff to do. So I do have that, obligation to meet deadlines for other people, which can be a catch-22 when you load yourself up with too much stuff to do. But yeah, just to keep a regular routine, eat meals at the right time, get up out of bed not too late. That has sort of helped me get through and stay positive, and checking in with friends online, having Skype sessions and Zoom sessions with them. Yeah.
Karl and Ez, you both alluded to study. I was wondering if you could talk to us a bit about like skills gathering and how you've used this time to learn. Maybe we'll start with Karl.
Yeah, so I'm in my final year at RMIT, and it's like when you're studying, like as I'm sure everyone here on this panel has, you quickly realize that you don't have time for your own projects because you're constantly working on assignments and stuff like that. So when the lockdown happened, it all sort of went into flux, and I just started I found the value in getting my assignments done early rather than last minute. So I'm like, it freed up a hell of a lot of time. And I've just started researching other things, but it's also like, it's just led to, I made a New Year's resolution to apply to more things for funding, just to start doing it and start getting used to that process. And before the lockdown, I never really had the time to do that. So the lockdown happened, and then all of a sudden had all this free time to do that. So that's been a real game changer for me. Is just doing research on that, and then asking other writers that I know have gotten funding, like, how did you do it, and talking to producers and things like that. So that's helped out a hell of a lot for me. It's definitely helped out too with my mental health doing that. I don't feel as stressed, like the time constraint. You always feel like there's a ticking clock, like, I have to get it done, I have to get it done. So yeah, it's been good.
And Ez, what about your learnings? Where have you been going through to for information, and what have you come across that's been useful that you could share with people?
Well, yeah, well, it comes like through the projects that I've been attached to. So, for instance, a documentary called Born to Stand Out. Basically, it focuses on African hip hop here in Australia, and also I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna make that happen, like, I don't know how I'm gonna shoot it. So I started to kind of like research like filmmakers in Sudan in particularly, and then I found that the first Sudanese filmmaker, he was he was named the first South Sudanese filmmaker in 1953 when Sudan got independent from the England, and they started to that is kept, for over the years, and nobody kind of looked at it, and nobody appreciated, and nobody, even like cared about it. And he just kind of kept it for years and years and years. And I came across by him by like I was watching a YouTube with a Jazeera documentary, and he was featured in it. I forgot his name, but I'm more than happy to send the link. And he was featured in it, and he was talking about, the way he was filming. It was kind of like amazing, handheld, kind of steady. There's a little reddish in it. So I started to kind of like focus on the way he filmed, because me to just kind of compare it on. And so, yeah, I've just been doing a lot of writing and also been working with Sammy Obama, showed film that he's doing. I started to put some of those touching in it as well. So not really kind of like focusing into like American cinema, but more of like East Africa, Sudan specifically, filmmaking, and yeah.
So you've had all the time in the world to be watching this stuff, huh? And diving deep, yeah?
Oh man, like yeah, like literally. First of all, I don't watch films. I don't critique films, and I don't have I don't have a filmmaker that I look up to, you know. And people in Melbourne, they compare me with Spike Lee. They're like, "You're the next Spike Lee," and I'm like, "I don't watch film. I don't know who's he." You know, they're like, "Oh, you know, the best black filmmaker." And so now I started to go back and watch all of his film, and he's got a unique way of telling stories, but that's not my way of telling a story. Like I feel like mine, like down the track, I'm sure people might see some of my film, but it's completely different. And yeah, definitely I'm trying to put more emphasis in cinematography, and bring the story closer to the screen than actually words driving the screen.
Cool. So I wanted to bring Nat and Nikki into this part of the conversation. I think I've broadly fall into the same category where I think we've all been kind of diligent applying for funding and sometimes getting it. And I was wondering if you guys could speak to looking for opportunities for funding and the process of application, and how you haven't during this time engaged with that. Nat?
Yeah, I probably haven't as much. I haven't really been going for too many grants. I know there's been so many kind of relief funds as well as on top of the usual kind of Screen Oz Filmvic development money out there. Because we were already in like a development round, I kind of was really enmeshed in that. But I did apply for a few writing labs that came up. So yeah, probably Nikki can speak further to that. I don't know if you've been applying for stuff or.
I haven't actually, because I've been working. Yeah, this is the wrong question to ask, John. I've been on the other end though. I've been assessing applications.
Oh, you have? Can you tell us a bit about that?
I don't know how much I can tell you, and I hope I don't talk about anything I'm not supposed to. But yeah,
there must be a lot flooding in. Yeah.
There were a lot. It's all the assessments done now because I've been interning at the ABC. And so having this internship kind of like a bit, I felt like there were more people that needed, you know, relief funding. So I haven't been actually applying for those quick response grants.
Yeah.
I do have, you know, we have submitted some stuff prior to the whole COVID thing to get some development funding to be part of labs as well. So that's just kind of sitting there waiting for a response. And yeah, I've just been on the other side assessing applications for ABC.
So what do you think makes a successful application for people who have been putting in applications during this time?
Yeah, sure. I guess not just having a great idea, because it's also being able to communicate how your idea is relevant for this time now, why it matters to you, why it matters to other people. Talking about screen projects, because they are made for an audience, you know, who would watch it, having an understanding of the audience that would engage with your project. Yeah, and why it matters, why it's relevant to this time, especially during COVID. I feel like there's a huge shift in the way that we're going to be thinking about content and the ideas that are floating around in the world. that it's good to be able to have that sort of foresight that we might not know exactly what will be popular in like a few months' time, but you know, knowing that if you're, you know, writing about being in lockdown, being COVID, that might not be relevant in a few months' time either. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah. Sammy, I just wanted to touch on something that you raised earlier about mental health. I think because of the isolation and, you know, the confusion, everyone has sort of suffered in their own ways. And just speaking as an artist, I mean, are there systems of management or things that you've found or things that you've spoken to people about that you could share with the filmmakers watching us right now?
Yeah. I think I wouldn't call it a mistake, but I think like the unpredictable event that had happened to me was moving out of home end of last year. And, you know, I had this whole vision for myself. You know, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this films and I'm going to make this films and then I'm going to do this show, etc. And then, you know, this whole thing trapping pretty much every artist, because like, you know, when the fire and the bushfires happened, like the artists were the first to kind of like, you know, like to be in the spotlight, raise awareness and help as much as we can. But then it's like when this happened, the arts was the first to go. And the sad part is like the arts is also the last to come back. And, you know, me being like, as an actor, like I have to be out there, I have to, you know, a lot of my, I guess, like I would say strength is being out there and communicating and networking and stuff like that. And I'm also an extrovert. So I think like what had helped me is I do a lot of meditation in the morning and also preparing to sleep. I have like a routine that I set for myself before sleeping, just so I can also wake up with that calm and collective like mindset when I wake up. But also when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, that just completely destroyed my routine, that destroyed me. You know, it's like, again, it's been something that I've been facing all my life, you know, and I've been holding it in the whole time. So I think that was just like a big burst of panic and you know, I think there was a lot of hate going around, there was a lot of anger going around, and I think like I just knew that what I had to do was I needed to be surrounded by love. So I decided to just go and spend a week with my family, and I felt like that also just helped my mind get, because my family are from Ethiopia, so they don't even have that much awareness of like what's happening in the world. So it's not something that was talked about every single day. It was spoken about, but that wasn't the main topic. Whereas where I'm at right now, people ask me, people just call me, and that was a topic that we would always talk about, and that was just exhausting. So yeah, just spending time with my family, spending time with my lady, you know, going back and forth, creating with my friend Ez right here. And just, you know, again, like I said, I gotta thank the Artist Way as well, which allowed me to just journal all my thoughts and what's happening right here, and just, you know, try to be as creative as possible, and just also ask myself, how can I be a positive light to those that are going through the same thing, and just, you know, play my part in inspiring other. You know, I try to be as inspiring as I can with anything that I do, and you know, I try to be just that, and I try to be just myself, and I just want to spread positivity and love all around, because I feel that's much more stronger than hate or anger or any of that, you know. And also having great friends to kind of speak to has been a massive help as well.
That's cool. Does anybody else want to chime in about mental health management during this time?
Yeah, I think one of the like yourself, I'm big on meditation too. I think those routines are so key to just kind of leveling yourself out. And it's so easy to get swept up in anxiety and spiral into that mindset. So meditation, journaling. I also will try and squeeze in 2 walks a day, and it doesn't really matter how long you go for, but it's more the mindset of traveling somewhere. It's the physical exercise as well as like I'm clocking on now once the walk's done. And then at the end of the day, the walk kind of makes me clock off. So the mental separation of work and just your time off is so hard when you're at home all the time. So yeah, I guess having something tangible to mark the start and close of the day is really good. I also think that in this time in particular, like there's so much pressure to achieve things as well and make the most of it and be productive in general. So in some ways it's really great to take on like small creative projects that kind of feed your creativity, but there's not the pressure attached to it. And that doesn't have to be, could be anything, could be painting, could be whittling, you know. I started writing these really silly horror films that were like 2 minutes long, and my partner and I were gonna shoot them at home. And like no one would ever see that film, but we were just gonna do it for fun.
I volunteered to see it.
yeah, but I mean, it's just kind of keeping that love for the craft and love for everything creative alive. I think that's the most important.
So thanks for touching on the love, because that's something that I've battled with in my own personal practice, is falling in and out of love with craft. And so much of it for me is dependent on how I'm feeling. And I think just with the heightened emotions we've all been having, I was just wondering if you guys could talk about if you've experienced falling in and out of love with your crafts and what brings you back.
Yeah.
Hello.
Sorry, my computer crashed.
As it's back.
Computer crashed badly.
Oh, you're back, man. Your timing is spectacular.
I was going to listen to it.
Did anybody want to speak? Did anybody want to speak to falling in and out of love with your craft, and how do you keep yourself inspired? How do you keep yourself working? What brings you back when you've had enough?
I sort of was falling out of love with just the whole everything, like the whole filmmaking process, like towards the end of last year. Just getting super anxious and under the pump. And the thing, like, I think I said earlier about the time aspect, like I've got a ticking clock, like, I'm 31 now, about to turn 32, and I'm just sort of like, am I too old to keep doing this? And have I made the wrong decision? And all those thoughts started swelling through my head. But there wasn't really one thing that sort of brought me back that I can pinpoint to. I just had a phase. I just had a saying that just ran through my head, and it was just just show up, just keep doing the work, just keep, like, if all else fails, if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, but it's not going to happen because I didn't put in the work. So, I'm like, I can look back and be like, well, I did everything I could and I tried and whatnot. I've got no regrets about doing it. So that, I think that self-reflection on that, and also just acknowledging that, if like your big break doesn't happen or you don't get funding for this one thing that you really, really love, it's not the end of the world. Like, there'll be something else around the corner, and who knows, that thing might lead you to something better. So yeah, it's just, that's probably the best thing I can say to inspiration, is just keep showing up, just keep doing it.
Yeah,
I think it's also worth noting how real burnout can be as well. And sometimes when you start to lose your love for the craft, it's often when you are overworked, you're kind of pushing yourself to your limit. So I think it's important to take that into consideration, to know that you're not, just overloading yourself, because I've definitely been there. And also, I think just in general, when your art is tied to your work and your source of income, that in itself becomes this weird, paradoxical conundrum and a source of angst for many of us. So sometimes when you hit that point, it can be useful to separate the two, so that you can keep doing your passion stuff, and you kind of just go, this is the work that I do for money, and that could be still in film, but it's not necessarily, it could be whatever job, and this is the work that feeds my soul, basically. And yeah, it's so rare, and you're so lucky when you can do both to the fullest extent. But yeah, sometimes it's just healthier for your mental health, and it means you can keep creating the work that you want to create.
I agree. I think sometimes when it gets to a point that you are feeling burnt out, it's okay to actually step away from it for a while, even if you don't do anything. The fear of losing momentum is often a huge pressure for people starting out, for emerging filmmakers. If I don't keep chasing the next project or keep being seen in the industry, people will forget about me. Now, that sort of pressure is always there. But knowing that it's okay for your own sanity to step away from it all and then come back, even if it's a few weeks, even if it's a few months, even if it has to be like a year or two, there'll still be opportunities there. Even if, COVID is happening, stuff is still happening in the background, and there's always going to be film and television and screen content and creative work to be done.
Ez, I wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned about mobile filmmaking before.
Yeah.
And something we've been pushing with Cinespace has been, anybody with this device can shoot and edit a film. And that led to the creation of the 1-2-3 film competition, because we're thinking, all right, there's no excuse. 1 location, 2 actors, 3 minutes, go. I was wondering if you could speak to your experiences with mobile phone filmmaking, and if you had any advice or tips or techniques that you've picked up that you want to share with us.
All right. Well, so yeah, nobody believes a phone can literally create a film or create a story, or even record a voice that you can send to make it as a podcast or something like that. But so when I was stuck at home and I wanted to be creative, I spoken to my cousin, his name Big Deng. He never been in front of a camera before or anything like that. I said to him, hey, let's make a short film. And then he's like, what short film? And I'm like, I don't know. It could be about anything. And then he wanted to shake my hand, and then he pulled back, and he's like, "Oh, my life." And I'm like, that's the story right there. As you go outside as if you're coming from work, but you don't want to bring any viruses, any disease at home, and just on my life. And that's about it at the door. And now we kind of just shot it again, just in my house here, and then edited in about half an hour, put it up online. We got a lot of viewers, and people told us to keep going. And I'm like, this guy is not an actor. He doesn't want to do it. But he had that window just to help me out on that short story. And literally, the tips would be, you don't need to sit down for hours and hours to write a great story. It could be again, a 30-second story, beginning, middle, and end. And that how you're gonna do that, it's completely up to you. And you can think, what do you do at nighttime? You sleep, you dream, you wake up, and repeat again. So you can sleep, think about the dream, you can make that as a, a scene, and then when you wake up, there's an end scene. And then if you want to make it longer, then you can sleep every night, dream every night, and write every night. And also the other tips that I always like to tell people is like, don't film vertically, film horizontally, and keep the two hands steady. And if someone is moving, let them move. And yeah, so those are the two things. So you can write, and also you can film on your phone.
Also, social media is so like, so many people are making videos on TikTok now, and it's just like, it's ridiculous because of like TikTok not having algorithm. Like anybody could just blow up. Just for the fun of it as well. Like I started making, TikTok videos, and then like within just like the first month, there was like 14,000 subscribers or like followers within just that time period. But the thing with that, like personally, I felt like that's just like, whoa, that's like, I don't know. It was just like there's a shock that I feel every time I'm like spending so much hours on my phone just scrolling, like what other content is there? What should I create? I feel like there's endless opportunities to kind of like, to take advantage of this piece of equipment. Yeah, and it's like, social media is like a really great platform to just explore your filmmaking technique, and it's a safe space to kind of do that at, where you're not being like, people are not writing reviews about your film,
Hey, Sammy, you've had a considerable amount of success with social media, and I was just wondering if you could speak to the difference between storytelling for that medium as opposed to storytelling for more long form content.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I think like, I hope like people don't come at me the wrong way when I say this. I've personally never taken anything that I posted on social media seriously. Like I've literally just like did it just to practice my craft, and again, like, it's a great safe space to post whatever content you want, and you have an audience for it, like endless audiences for it. But I think like I don't think there's any craft for social media. Like, if I can just be honest, I don't think there's like a real craft put into it. If whereas like, if you're actually working behind a team, and the objective is for social media to reach the younger audiences, and because like there's a strategy put behind it, then yes. But I think like what I feel for social media, me personally, is that it becomes about getting the likes, getting about the followers, getting about, just that dopamine hit, rather than actually having love for the craft, and you're doing it because you love the craft, and you just want to put it out there, and that's, you're doing it because of that, not because to get likes or to get that gratification. So like, that's why part of me, when I see some content on Facebook, like, or social media, I think it's a great platform to get audience, but I think it's also easy to get sidetracked and forgetting why you're doing the things that you're doing.
Right on.
There's also the potential, for using like the social media apps in your storytelling as well, and like screen capturing. Like, if you guys have seen that show Content on ABC, that's like a really good example of just using your phone and using that kind of medium to tell the story. There's also, I don't know if you saw that show on Stan, Lockdown Comedy, where they basically just give comedians like a handy cam or whatever it is. And yeah, they record themselves, and some of them are really inventive, so that might be worth checking out as well.
Nikki, I just want to ask, you've been in the web series space for a while, putting out some pretty awesome content, and I know a lot of people talk about and want to get involved in web series. Can you speak to that experience and if you had any advice for people wanting to pursue that?
In terms of reaching audience, or in terms of
writing it and putting it together and going for it and reaching an audience?
Oh, that's a big topic. Well, I guess the beauty of web series is that, you know, you can create it yourself, you can write it in your own voice, and you can upload it online, and there's no restrictions on who can see your work or not. Because often, like, if you do it the old school style where you have a short film and you enter it into festivals, often the festivals say, we won't show your film unless it's premiering for the first time in the world or in Australia or something like that. So you often don't get as many people as you want to see the film. And the reason why I got into web series is because I wanted as many people to access my work as possible. And the people I wanted to reach aren't people that go to film festivals and stuff like that. Yeah, and so some of the work on YouTube, everyone uses YouTube. It makes it harder to find work. It's kind of this, it's ease of accessibility, but it also becomes harder to be heard over all the noise sometimes. And the key to being able to find your audience and find people to see your work and to love your work is to understand who you're talking to, who you're trying to speak to, and then find little pockets of the internet to be able to reach them. Facebook groups, forums, events in real life where lots of web series lovers go. For our latest web series, Girl Interpreted, it's about a Mandarin interpreter. And a lot of it is aimed towards the Chinese community in Australia. So what we did was we went to libraries and councils where there's a big Asian community, Chinese community. We also spoke to Chinese teachers. We tried to get in touch with the unis in terms of pushing it out to their Chinese international students. But by the time we had come out, it was like the end of January and lockdown was about to happen. And none of the Chinese students had returned to Australia yet. So it was bad timing for us on that front. But yeah, just being able to identify where people hang out online and going there and showing your work there is more likely to get traction that way.
Cool. And Karl, you've done a lot in the podcast space, and I was just wondering, working in scripted podcast, how different is that process for you as a writer as opposed to writing for the scripted filmed content?
Look, it's sort of halfway between writing prose and writing a screenplay. So how it is you know, the scripted podcast, the classification, it could be an interview as well. Like interview podcasts are classified as scripted podcasts. And you know, if you listen to as many podcasts as I do, you quickly find that the interviews go well off track. So they're not really scripted. And the scripted ones that I listen to, they're much like audiobooks. So I feel like they're breaking sort of new ground with scripted podcasts, and it's probably, I feel like it's going to be a very big medium for writers, especially screenwriters, if they are to get into it, and if they sort of go the way podcasts are, because there's so many podcasts now too, like it's inundated with podcasts out there. So if it goes that way, it'll be really good for emerging screenwriters to get into, even novelists and stuff like that. Like it's not hard to cross over into that from both disciplines, I feel.
Do you have any favorites that we should be checking out right now?
Look, there's a hell of a lot of true crime ones that are really fascinating. But look, I tend to listen to more the comedic ones. So anything with stand-up comedians and stuff, they just sort of that's sort of my meditation is I'll listen to podcasts while I'm doing housework and stuff like that. But the ones that I've been listening to lately is Joe Rogan. Obviously, is one that's kind of a constant source, and he's the biggest as well. But there's also Kevin Smith, the indie filmmaker from the 90s. He's got 4 or 5 podcasts that he sits on, and he's got like a whole sort of broadcast network where he's got like 20 podcasts underneath it. So anything on there is, super interesting, and it's a treasure trove for upcoming filmmakers that just want to learn sort of tricks of the trade and stuff. So yeah, I'd definitely check that out.
And Natalie, as we mentioned earlier, Relic, your debut feature film, will be having its premiere in a few days on the 10th of July on Stan. Congrats again for that. It's awesome.
Thank you. Cheers. Very nervous.
I'm sure it'll be amazing. We've read the reviews. Can't wait to see it. I was just wondering, that process from going from writing short films to writing a feature film, if you had any tips for people watching this about time management or inspiration or process, I was wondering if you can share what that experience was like for you, and if there are any pitfalls we should be avoiding.
Oh, specifically in going from a short to a feature, or?
Oh, just talk to the difference of those two processes and what that experience was for you writing a feature film.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a much longer process. It comes under a lot more scrutiny as well. There's a lot more rounds of feedback that you have to deal with. But I suppose that's the same if you're writing anything long form, and there's, financiers, there's, multiple sets of producers, whatever it is. What can I tell you? I mean, structurally, yeah, it's just a longer endeavor. I have a co-writer, which has been great, because you kind of share the highs and also the lows, and you probably just don't take it on as much because you're kind of partners in that sense. What else can I tell you?
Can you talk to us about time management? Like, how do you
time management
find the time to take on an endeavor like that? And if you had any tips on how to structure your hours, or when to walk away and when to persist?
Well, when I was writing Relic, I didn't have any sort of strict schedule. I would say my approach was just to procrastinate, and then stress about it, get really anxious, dig myself a hole, and then somehow churn it out at the last minute. I'm not even joking. And a lot of that was happening while I was traveling for short film festivals as well. So it was, just a whole bunch of stress. Whereas more recently, with this kind of writing group, I definitely, and with, lockdown, I suppose I definitely just have more of a structure to my life, which I think has been the key to making the whole thing just more enjoyable. So generally, I'll have my routine of getting up, going for my walk, trying to do emails and meetings in the morning. It works out because, with the time difference with LA, it's your meetings are always in the mornings anyway. And then from 12 to 4 is the writing time. So I don't try, and I might, if I, there's a massive deadline, I might go over that time, but more and more I'm trying to just pace myself a bit, so it's not this intense pressure, and I think it just makes the writing more enjoyable. I don't think it's something that you can do, if the deadline is too tight, but it, for me, makes it more sustainable.
And so, provided you get your 1 to 4 every day, then you don't beat yourself up or feel stressed about the process.
Right. Yeah, I usually try and hit a certain number of pages, and that's a good measure of whether I've had a good day or not.
Yeah, cool. And I'm just wondering, when you're writing for long form like that, do you belt out drafts and then comb through those drafts, or do you rewrite as you go along?
Yeah, interesting question. Usually it really depends on what draft we're on, I would say, but generally I tend to be a little bit more perfectionist and I get stuck on scenes, but more and more I'm trying to block out and just keep going and then go back later. Yeah, so you go either way, I think.
All right, awesome. So we've got 10 minutes left with you guys. So there's Jen, did we get some questions?
Yeah. Do you want to mute yours?
Yeah, I'll mute mine and hand over the questions to Jen, who's been fielding questions from everybody. Oh, where's my mute? There it is.
Okay. So there's one really great question from Elise. If you only have to choose one ideal location, anywhere, anytime, what is the location? Open to all the judges. Considering this is the 1, 2, 3 film competition, yeah, how would you do your one?
Are they talking about it like?
Natalie.
Or... Oh no, go ahead. No, please. I don't have an answer. I was trying to clarify.
Now, I was gonna say great question. Well, mine would be in the restroom.
A restroom? Any particular restroom?
It would be my grandmother's restroom.
Why?
Yeah, because she's got like some art in the wall, and then she's got like some magazine that she doesn't read, and also these like some quotation in Arabic. And yeah, and every time I go there, I don't know, I just kind of think about ideas and stories, and yeah, so who would be there, because I go into a memory, and also appreciate that she's with us here, because not a lot of people who are lucky enough to have their grandmothers with them, so who would be there.
Yeah, thanks, Ez. Great location, yeah, definitely. How about Karl?
I think just thinking about it, then I think a dog park, because we've just recently got a puppy, and we live just out. Our dog park is like right outside of our house, and I've seen some wild stuff down there. So especially with the lockdown and everyone's sort of, everyone's rediscovering parks now. So you get a lot of interesting characters down there during lockdown. So I'd say
Fantastic.
There's a lot of stories down there.
Thanks, Karl. Shall we go to Nikki?
This is a tough one. I would have liked to choose a location outside of my house since I've been cooped up in it, but I feel like that's where most of the stories have come from, the most drama. I live in a house with my family. There's 5 other people, so there's lots of drama all the time.
Which room has the most activity then?
Which room has the most probably the kitchen. Everyone goes to hang out at the kitchen during meal times, and my mum's kind of just stationed there the whole day with her iPad and the TV on at the same time. My grandma has her iPad as well. It's all very loud.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like there's going to be a lot of stories coming from just the kitchen. Great, thank you. Let's go Natalie.
I'm quite partial to abandoned places, so maybe do a bit of urban exploring. Yeah.
Any particular ones?
Oh yeah, I couldn't really think of any. I mean, we're in Footscray. I reckon there's heaps. If I have to like break into some places, but yeah.
True. The Little Saigon Market is pretty abandoned at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty eerie.
Nice. And last but not least, Sammy, what location would you have chosen?
If you call a car a location, then I would say a car, but that's not really a location. But a bar or a cafe, you know, I just think so much like there's so much stories that you could grab, either like a drunken story or just like, you know, at a cafe somebody going to work, or I don't know, there's just so much story you could get out of those two locations.
Awesome. And just a final question. I'm just combining two questions here from Steve and Sangjay. So just wondering what TV shows is the panel watching at the moment, and any suggestions on COVID films to watch during this time? Maybe we'll start with Sammy.
If you haven't watched Power, I would say watch Power. I've seen Power many times, but it's on Stars. I would say, oh, it's on Stan actually right now as well. I would say, yeah, Power, great cinematography, great story. Yeah, I would say Power. Go watch Power.
Yeah, right. How about you, Natalie? We'll go backwards.
I just finished watching Dark, which I highly recommend. It's like a German sci-fi mystery thriller. It's pretty damn great. And good isolation film is maybe like The Quiet Earth. Go watch that.
Nice one. Ez?
Well, for the yeah, well, at the moment I'm watching Queen Sono. Is set in Africa. There's no particular country, and basically it's just like a drama CIA Tower story, and it's very high tech as well. I really love the story, the way they film it, the color, the characters as well. They're so amazing, and you know, and the film that I recommend would be Outbreak, 1996 film. It's very scary.
Oh,
it's very close. Yeah, it's very, very close to, you know, the situation that we're living in today.
Yeah, right. Better get onto those. Nikki?
For me, I watched The Great on Stan, which is like about Russian history, but interpreted in a very like irreverent and contemporary way. It's quite funny, and lots of bloodshed and hilarity in it. And then the other thing I was watching. Sorry?
Created by an Aussie.
Yeah. It was written by the same guy who wrote the film The Favorite. And I've been watching Terrace House. I've been binging Terrace House, which is this Japanese reality show. It's actually quite addictive, and I thought it would be quite boring, but it's basically 6 housemates, that 3 female and 3 male get chosen, and they live in this house together. It's kind of Big Brother, but without all the crazy drama and the stakes in it. But somehow there's still a little bit of drama. They kind of just leave the house whenever they want to and come back. Like they just live their lives, and you get to watch them. And I spent hours and hours, maybe weeks, just watching it.
It's so good. I love how subtle the drama is.
Yeah. It's very good.
Stan. Watching Stan. And last, Karl.
I've been watching the latest series of Penny Dreadful, City of Los Angeles. It's aesthetically, it's just beautiful, and it's very well written. And also Killing Eve. I'm super late to the party on that, but that's blown me away. I've only watched the first 2 episodes, and I'm sort of holding myself off from just sitting on the couch and watching all the seasons. But that's fantastic, and a good isolation film. I'd have to say The King of Staten Island, the latest Judd Apatow film with Pete Davidson. That was a really heartfelt watch.
Wow, so many films to watch. Yeah, well, it's 7:40 at the moment, and I think if there's any last, we'll hand it back to John to end it.
So I just want to say thank you everybody for chiming in with these great thoughts. It's been super amazing speaking to all of you at the same time and hearing from everybody. And for everybody at home, I encourage you to send us your films. You've met the judges. We're all human and nice, and are all pretty excited to see what everyone's going to come up with. So yeah, thank you everybody for being a part of this. And I think the entries will be due on the 19th of July, which is coming up pretty soon. So please get your films in. And then the judging will begin. So thank you. And
Thank you.
good luck out there in filmmaking land. And hopefully we can all reconvene at the online awards night, which will be hosted back here in a few weeks from now. Look out for announcements.
And go to our website.
Oh yeah, and go to our website. Which one?
The Film Freeway one?
Oh yeah, filmfreeway.com/123 film competition. And yeah, we look forward to seeing all your films. So thank you everybody, and
Thank you.
let's reconvene soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice
Alright.
meeting
See
everybody.
ya. Bye.
All right. Bye.